Today we're going to be talking about absolute value inequalities. And when you look at this statement right here, what we have is we have the absolute value of D less than 2. So remember, absolute value means distance. So what number's distance is less than 2? So from 0, we have everything from 2 all the way to -2. All of these numbers along here, their distance is less than 2. So the type of inequality we would have there is an and. And so I have actually less than. I gave you guys a little hint. Whenever you see the less than sign with your absolute value on the left side, so your absolute value has to be on the left side, and that symbol's an less than symbol, it turns into an and statement. Now let's look at this for the absolute value of D greater than 3. Now notice how this only works, my trick only works with the absolute value on the left side. So what number's distance from 0 is greater than 3? Well, that's 3, and all these numbers to the left, to the right, and then -3, all the numbers to the left. So that would be an or statement, because we have D less than -3, or D is greater than 3. Okay, so greater, with the absolute value on the left, and you have a greater than symbol, it becomes an or statement. So how this works when you have absolute value inequalities. Like before, make sure you isolate the absolute value sign. This is a greater than statement, so you write out 2 inequalities. Okay, I have 2 inequalities over here. When you have a less than sign, it becomes that sandwich, that and. Okay, so you're sandwiched between -7 and 7, and notice how both of these are less than signs. Something I want to highlight up here with our or, notice how with the positive version, the inequality symbol stays the same. With the negative, because you're multiplying by a negative, you have to switch that inequality sign. So our first real example, make sure you isolate the absolute value. So I'm going to first add 3. I'm sorry, not add 3, subtract 3 to both sides. So when I subtract 3, I get a 2. I'm going to multiply both sides by 2. Now, what you have to look at is, look and see, that symbol's an or statement because it's a greater than sign. So 2x minus 2 greater than or equal to 4, or 2x minus 2 less than or equal to -4. So when you have the negative, you have to change that sign. Add 2 to both sides and divide. Now make sure you have that or in there. Make sure you carry down that or as part of your answer. I'm going to take off points if you don't have that or written in there. Add 2 to both sides. Okay, so now if we make our middle 0, we have -1, -2, -3, and we have 1, 2, 3, less than or equal to -1, so filled in whole, greater than or equal to 3, filled in whole, going that way. Okay, same thing, make sure you isolate the absolute value. So I have to subtract 6 from both sides. And then I have to divide by 5. Now this is a less than, so it becomes an and statement. Now add 1 to everything. And that's our answer. Next one, and make sure you guys write down this example. To prepare for a job interview, Hinda researches the position's requirements. She discovers the average salary is that much, but her actual salary could differ from the average, so her actual salary is going to differ by as much as $2,450. So we want to write an absolute value inequality to describe the situation. So I'm going to have an absolute value inequality. Okay, if X is standing for her actual salary, so it tells me right now the actual starting salary could differ from the average. Okay, so her actual salary is differing from our average. Okay, you could have switched the X in the 38,500 if you wanted by as much as 2,450. That means this is the maximum. That's the bigger of the numbers. Okay, so that's our absolute value inequality. Okay, write an absolute value inequality for each of the graphs. This is kind of what we just did. Okay, so we have X minus some number. Since this is an AND statement, it's less than something. This number right here is the central value, or the center. What's the center, or the middle, in between 2 and -4? Well, that's going to be a -1. So that changes to that. Now, what's the difference between this value and 2? Well, that is 3 units away. For the one down here, absolute value inequality. This is a greater than. So between the two endpoints of the rays, or these two dots, find the midpoint. What's that middle? The middle is -1.5. That's what goes inside. That's what's being subtracted from the X. And then -1.5 is about right there. What's this distance? Because that's what the distance is going to be greater than. The distance is also greater than 1.5. There are your lesson questions, and please make sure those are submitted on time.